Maybe. Yeah.
That's a nice collection of advertisers.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody, this afternoon. Well, there is one person here. Fantastic. We're doing this live, and it'll be on Facebook later on today. Talking Chicks number 66 with Kenny and Nancy Troiano.
Yep.
Of the Breeders' Academy. Matt and I were on their show, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, had a really good time, and we thank them for inviting us on, and now we reciprocated and brought them on. If you're not a member, if you haven't seen their podcast, please go. I'm sure they're going to tell us here shortly how to get there. Go watch it. There's a lot of information. Like we always say, one way of doing something in one side, in this case, what we do with them, just exhibition, and developing and doing other things with game file. That's another side, but that doesn't mean there's something you can't take out of that and learn from. So with that, Matt, have we got any updates since we?
Yeah, I'll give you some ABA updates. So I sent the newsletter out yesterday. So everybody that's signed up and has an email should have got that. If not, it's on the Wild Apricot part of the ABA site. So that's some things there. She's the last call for a yearbook to add. So if you haven't done those, get those in. Looks to be another good book. Leg bands are 70% gone. So out of 60,000 leg bands, we're down to 30% left. So if you need leg bands, get those in, because once we're out this year. And then next year, I think she said that she's not going to even take orders till she gets them physically here from Germany. So we had a little issue with that this year. One thing I wanted to mention is we lost a good friend last week. Marty Abrahamson from Arkansas passed away. He's been fighting ALS for a couple of years, and it finally got him. But what a great guy. Yeah. We will always remember Marty. We've had a lot of fun with him over the years, Lord knows.
Sometimes some of the things we actually remember what we did with Marty, and sometimes we don't know. But we've seen pictures of what we did, and we really had a good time.
Yeah, he stole Mike's phone one time and took a lot of neat pictures. So.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he was an interesting individual. He loved his poultry, loved poultry people. Did a lot for a lot of clubs and a lot of shows and a lot of breeds. And for everything that Marty was, besides being kind, Marty told you he was going to do something,
yep,
Marty did it. Whether that be, I'll get you birds, and you would think, Marty, you'll never remember. Marty remembered, and he always had what he said he'd do. So, yeah, it was a great loss. I think it was just yesterday, a day before he passed away. He'd been fighting it for a couple of years. I spoke to him last. I text Marty because it got so he couldn't speak. But he texted me, and we talked quite a bit in April, and gonna miss him. So, all right. And after that, I don't think we lost anybody else since then, although we've lost quite a few this year, unfortunately, but that is part of life. And I'm still in Georgia. Be heading home next week, it looks like. So try to get some semblance of normal, go down and relieve Matt of some more chicks, and free up some brooder space and pen space and all kinds of space for him.
Yeah. I need it. Last hatch is in the hatcher, so praise the Lord, that's over with for a while. I'll get them cleaned up, and that way I won't want to dirty them up right away. So, birds molting. I think I put up on the thing I had a barred coaching hen that did the molt the way they should. She molted everything. She was like buck naked. She looked like a porcupine, and that's the way they used to always molt. And I don't think that might be one of them traits we're not selecting for as a good molt, Kenny, because I haven't had one do that in a while. And I went in there and the feathers were just everywhere. It looked like she'd been attacked, but now she's coming out of it. So I got to get breeding pens broke up and males separated and all that good stuff, and more room for chicks. So
I get to go home and put the pens back together and finish fixing the roof and go down to mats to get them. And it looks like I will be the one doing the fall hatching this year. I just got a feeling that's the way this shit's going to work.
yeah.
So, and then I have to go to Stephanie's and bring some stuff back for there, but that's going to be a little bit later. So she's doing good and getting chicks out. So we're doing good there. So, all right, you two. People
Happy times, huh?
have you here.
What's that?
I said it's good to have you here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was really good to have you guys on our show too. We had a nice talk. It was fun. I think it was like a 2.5 hour show.
It was long.
Yeah, it was really long. It just kept on. There was just so much to talk about, and we were having such a good time. We didn't want to quit. It's like last night we did a show with Peter Brown. What was that? 3.5 hours?
Almost. I kept saying, okay, well, I guess it's time to wrap it up. And
we
then
came up with another topic,
Yeah, Peter's a wealth of information, that's for sure. He's been doing it a long time.
He's been working with me for quite a while, a big part of our show too, and teaching people, giving them a lot of good advice on healthcare and disease prevention. So I really appreciate him. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming on our show. That was really good, and I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, but for some of your listeners that don't know who we are, Kenny is got his own website. It's called the Breeders Academy, and there he teaches people how to breed chickens, amongst other things. There's a lot of variety within the website that you can go and learn about. And then we have 2 podcast shows. We do a podcast show every Friday night at 6:00 California time. And then sometimes we do some on Monday nights. A lot of our interviews have actually been on Monday nights. And then if you haven't had enough of us there, on Monday nights on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, you can catch the audio version of our podcast.
Which I actually like better because it's really cleaned up.
Yeah.
We add a lot of music and special stuff to it, and it's just funner to listen to. But yeah, we teach people how to create, improve, and maintain their strains. Something a lot of people don't know that much about because they're just adding new blood, mixing this. I've talked to so many people where they said, well, I wanted a particular breed, so I went to all the different breeders I heard that were the best, and I got birds from each of them, and then I brought them all into one. I tried to create a family from that, and then they just ran into one problem after another because they didn't realize there were just every breed, every strain has its own common fault, that breeders had to work on. Now you've taken multiple families, put them into one. Now you've got one family with all those faults. Instead of just finding one good breeder, get a handful of birds from him or her, and then create a family from that, So we've been doing this for the website's been around for about 10 years now, and it's been going strong. We've been, it's improved as far as membership every year, every single year. And then we started the podcast in, was it 2018? I think it was.
I think this is our 6th year.
Seventh or eighth year, I think.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
Yeah. And we've been, we're just having a great time. And I love helping people. I love breeding. I love watching people improve their strains. And we're having a great time.
Good deal.
Good deal. I've been able to look at several of them, and Peter Brown's a great person to have. You've had Don Schrader on there, Brian Reeder. For those that want breeding advice, even go to Brian's site and whatever color or whatever. I'm not a genetics mumbo jumbo guy, but he is, but he does tend to bring it down to us moron level so we can actually understand what he's saying.
And he's patient too.
Yeah, he is. And I talked, I think, to you before that we used to have an old command line feed chat room years ago in the 2000s, late 1990s, I think, probably when he first started into the poultry, and the Saramas were coming over and he was involved in that. And he would come on and help all kinds of people with all their different problems. And it kind of got just overwhelming with all the questions because you got, 300 people in there all doing their own projects and wanting some advice. So he was great for that. And I mentioned to you earlier, I watched his thing on Wheaton's, which had a lot of your birds in it. And if you want to know about Wheaton, that's an excellent podcast, excellent video to brush up on some Wheaton stuff, because that's a tough color to breed in both sexes. I guess I'll qualify that. And he gives some good insights on what you should be looking for and which way to go. So
he's a big part of our Breeders Academy, and it's funny how I met him. I've read his books, and I understand the genetics for the most part, but I cover the genetics that you need to actually create the family. The genetic, you figure out what the traits are that they carry. You figure out the genetic factors, and then it allows you to properly match them and select them, and then actually make a family out of them. But I'm more about the breeding program side, and Brian's more about the actual nitty gritty genetics when it comes to actual colors. And it was funny how we met, because I read his books and everything. I didn't know he was available. I didn't really know who he was. And one of my members goes, "If I could introduce you to Brian Reeder, would you meet him?" I said, "Absolutely." And so him and I got together, and our first talk was on the phone, and I recorded and everything with his permission, of course. And we talked for 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
And it would have went longer if I didn't say, because it was getting late. It was an early morning. I'm like, "Brian, I'd love to talk to you, but I'm starting to get tired. I'm yawning and everything." He goes, "Okay, we'll get back together." Every call we did for the first year or so was 5 hours, 8-hour marathons, 10 hours, 12 hours. I mean, that's how much we talked. And then we would get together from time to time and just do shows for, like Masters class videos for the Breeders Academy. And he was just really good at being patient, making sure I got it, making sure I understood everything, and that we progressed. And he's just been a real valuable resource for my members. And then I finally talked him into going public, creating his own YouTube channel, and teaching some of the stuff on the outside. But it was so funny because he goes, you want to meet him?" I said, "Sure." And so he gave me the connection, and it was the best thing that ever happened. I've been working with Brian for about 3 or 4 years now.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Really
So,
Yeah,
Hey,
he's
if
got
anybody's
a
got any
really
questions, if everybody's got any questions, just post your comments up here, and we'll get your questions on whatever subject pertaining to poultry that you would like to get answered. We'll do our best.
yeah, especially breeding. I can handle the breeding.
Yeah, breeding.
Yeah.
Well, tell us what you are breeding for those that aren't from your site that don't know.
Through the years since I was a kid till now, I've bred a lot of different breeds, domestic, but my love is for the American game. I just love that bird. Okay. I love the looks of the bird, everything. It just appeals to me. And so I started with those pretty early on. And, it was funny that I was just enjoying them, having a good old time. And the feed stores in my area started contacting me and says, "Hey," they didn't know who I was. They didn't even know I was an authority. I don't even know why they went to me. And they says, "Hey, can you help people get started? Because, we don't know what to say to them. Can you kind of help them out?" So they would call me, and this happened quite a bit, or even come by to my house, and I would help them out, try to get them started on the right foot. And I was getting all the magazines, and my daughters were reading the magazines, listening to me talk to all these people who needed help. And they said, "Why don't you write for the magazines?" I says, "Oh, no, that's not my thing." And my daughter just kept bothering me. And I says, "Sam, if you think it's that easy, you do it." Because she felt that I could do better than what was in the magazine because of the advice I was giving. And she did it for almost 3 years, 2 or 3 years. She was writing for the magazine.
Yeah.
She started at 13 years old. She would just follow me around with a piece of paper and ask me questions and then type it out on a regular typewriter, by the way. It wasn't even a computer at the time. And so she did that. And then she was like, "Dad, I'm in high school now. I'm getting kind of busy with homework. I want to take a break." And I says, "Okay." And I really thought she'd come back. I says, "Well, let me go ahead and write a few articles, and maybe you'll come back, and I'll take care of, 4 to 6 months or so." And I did that, and I got a great response. She never came back, by the way. And so after that, I mean, they were publishing everything she was writing, and then I sent it in, and they were publishing everything I wrote. So I just kept it going. And for almost 20 years, I wrote articles for various magazines, Poultry Press, Gamecock Magazine, 2 in Mexico, 2 in the Philippines, Australia, England. And I just kept articles going out for almost 20 years. And then I ended up writing a couple books. One was just a collection of my articles. The other one was on breeding. I loved breeding so much that I was like, this is what I want to do, you know? And so I started working with certain people, and came up with the Founders Program, which really made the difference. And then I started teaching that. And then we created the Breeders Academy, which changed everything, you know. And then we only use the podcast as a
it's the marketing arm.
it's the marketing arm of the website, which has really helped.
Good deal. I know both of us I've been a Poultry Press subscriber since 1972, and I have them all, believe it or not, around here somewhere. They're in piles. Because somebody will call and want something, and I got to go back and try to find it. And I guess the issue was back in those days, there was a lot of written stuff. And in the last 10 years, that's kind of went away. Yeah. And you do quite a few articles for them that I enjoy reading them, but nobody wants to write anything anymore. So it's hard, even with our yearbooks and newsletters and things, it's hard to get new material. And, you know, you can only read that old stuff, and we've read it up enough over the years, but it's nice to get a fresh perspective on what's going on now and not what happened 80 years ago, I guess, because things have changed a little bit. And so we enjoy that. And I'm glad you do that, because there's not many magazines, print material anymore. I mean, even our local newspaper went to online, and, you know, that's kind of having the physical thing right there in your hand. Maybe I can get it to sink in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I get it every month and read it. And that used to be the highlight of the month, was getting your Poultry Press and going through it. And years ago, they had a thing in the back that had all the show reports and every winning in every class. And it was like reading a box score to a baseball game. And they kind of went away from that. And they used to do that on a typewriter too. It was horrible, because as an old show secretary, I used to have to type them up. And, you know, with typewriters, you can't make mistakes like you do today and easily correct it. So it took a while to get that all typed out and sent to them, but they used to publish those. And that's probably some of the best things you can, if you're looking for birds or whatever, you could go in there and see if somebody won in a class of 2 or if they won in a class of 100 and it made a difference, or see how well they placed throughout the whole class, looking for consistency. And I think you said something very important right there about going to 10 different breeders and getting 10 different birds. 9 times out of 10, that does not work. Every once in a while, sometimes a totally unrelated outcross will click, but normally that's because they're genetically related to begin with, not because you did any amazing thing. And everybody wants to do that when they start. And my advice has always been, go to the breeder and tell them you want 2 pair, because you never want to get a trio. You want 2 pair in case that male dies, but get me birds that I can raise something out of. And that only impresses the breeder, in the fact that you just don't want to buy their show birds and go show them or do whatever, or do what you said, cross them into somebody else's stuff, that you actually want to work with this line for a little bit before you go all crazy. And usually if you ask that question for somebody wanting birds, and Mike and I do it all the time, it kind of weeds out the collectors, and we call them the Noah's Ark people that got to have 2 of everything. And, they do that for a few years and then realize they're going nowhere, and that maybe we need to get into this. And I recommend the Breeders Academy if you're struggling with, creating your line or whatever, whether it's show birds, game fowl, pigeons, whatever. There's a methodology to it, and it's not rocket science, but there is some things you have to do correctly.
Yeah. What they don't realize is, see, a lot of people look at line breeding and clan mating as its own thing, it like a breeding program. And to me, I don't look at those as breeding programs. They are breeding methods, and I use a lot of methods in my breeding program, and they're used at a specific time for a specific length of time to achieve a certain result. And so, but there are some methods that people are just afraid of. They just run away, like inbreeding. And
I see that. You say that, and we'll talk on that a minute, because how many times have you actually seen a line affected by inbreeding depression? where it's not really inbreeding depression, but it's
No.
just in their mind.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I've done some awful severe inbreeding over the years. And as long as you watch out for those factors, that I never seen inbreeding depression unless I started with some real. Our friend Louis Strait had a line of white Cornish largefowl for 70 years and never had anything else put into them. And those birds were just as healthy, just as. And I see people that go buy birds and within 2 or 3, I'm inbred, I got to get an outcross. Probably not truly the case. So I think some of the stuff you talk about, kind of, you have to really know that that's what it is. And in Brian too. And 9 times out of 10, it's not. It's just you've made too many matings, mixing too much junk together.
And
now you're getting bad stuff. Yeah, you're getting bad stuff. I think what happened to us in the hobby was that we got away from those production and basic breeding capabilities, looking for that pretty showbird. And sometimes the pretty showbird is almost all times is not going to be your best egg layer because it's not bred that way. It's bred to look pretty. And if it lays 10 eggs, that's fine because we want it to look pretty when it goes in a show cage. But in the back of your mind too, you got to, I want production. I want them to actually be prolific. And I've gotten into that bind myself with birds I've gotten. And man, these things just don't produce. They're nice birds, but they need to be bred for other things. So I guess I'll shut up and let you talk.
Well, if you want to inbreed, you just got to make sure that they're free of deleterious genes. And where do those deleterious genes come from? Outcrossing. Okay, that's where they came from in the first place. And everybody's afraid of inbreeding depression. The first signs of inbreeding depression is that the eggs don't hatch, or the chicks, when they do hatch, are very lethargic. They usually don't grow anyways. Okay, so all the things they think represent inbreeding depression, like you said, are not inbreeding depression. And for chickens, it would take a lot of inbreeding to even get there. They can handle a lot, And I actually know some breeders, and I don't recommend it. I don't do it to this extreme, but they inbreed every year, brother, sister, every single year. But they understand that they're breeding and selecting for health and vigor. That's the first things you look for. Inbreeding depression is a lack of vigor, just like hybrid vigor is high vigor. It's the opposite. They're the same things. They're the same coin, but opposite sides of the coin. And neither one of them are inheritable or passed to the next generation. So if you have families starting to show inbreeding depression, which I rarely think that's what it is, then you just have to mix up your breedings a little bit. You don't need to go outside the family. Just mix up your breedings a little bit, get that vigor back from other birds, and you're usually fine because it's not inheritable. Just like hybrid vigor, you get the effects of heterosis, but that bird is the product. You're not going to pass that hybrid vigor.
It's short-lived.
It's very short-lived, very temporary, and they think that they can enhance it, improve it.
That's why the commercial people do those hybrid crosses every year. So you can't take, like, say, golden comets, if you would happen to get a male, and recreate that, because that's not how that's made. No. That's all patented genetics, and there's 4 different, birds there that make that hybrid cross. It's like we always talk, everybody talks about Cornish rock crosses. Well, hell, they haven't seen a Cornish rock for 80 years. All that's been done by selection, and keep those 4 lines, separate and patented and whatever they do. I know the Cobb 500 was one of the big broiler breeds, but I've seen those breeder birds. You've got 8 and 9 pound males running around in a pen on 7 females, and every egg's fertile. And, that line has not had anything put into it for years. So I think you're right on the money there. Don't just jump to inbreeding is your problem. I think your problem is too much breeding with too many different factors involved, definitely.
Think of it like this. And Robert Bakewell, the father of selective breeding, says it, that all these breeds and varieties we have today are only here, or we have them because of inbreeding. Without inbreeding, they don't exist. Okay. So you have to do a certain amount of inbreeding, and it took the breeders who create those lines to understand that, to create them in the first place. And a lot of people want to shy away from it. They want to run away from it. I've seen so many people get a flock of birds and right away they're clan mating. Clan mating is an incredible program, but it's not for creating or improving a strain. It's for maintaining a strain. Okay. So I would not clan mate birds that weren't first established as a family first.
And they have to be consistent. You
Yeah.
have to have that's what I try to tell everybody on the exhibition side. You have to have some level of consistency before you ever even start
Yep.
doing all that. Because if they're not consistent to begin with, then you've got to start selecting for consistency with show birds, and I'm sure with game fowls the same way. If you're not producing 10 birds that look alike, then you've got a problem. And we see this as judges all the time. You go into a class and we don't know who they are, but we know numbers on cages. And if I look at a cage and I see number 6 has 10 different kinds of cockerels and 5 different kinds, I know they're in trouble. And I think I give him compliments all the time. But John Miles, our friend from Virginia, showed some White Rocks years ago, White Rock Bantams, and he's just getting going in it. He had a lot of experience with family and mentors and all that. But when I went down through that class, every damn one of them birds looked alike. And I could tell, I mean, you know, when you get there, and he did very well in that class. But that, to me, that was a breeder because he had consistency already, and where he takes it from there. And he has, I mean, I think at the Northeastern Poultry Congress, he did a rare thing. He had champion largefowl and champion bantam on 2 White Rocks. So to get to that level, it doesn't happen overnight, and you have to have that consistency. And we do it with our projects. We'll get birds that are all over the place, and it takes years. You just weed it down to where you finally get that consistency, good or bad. But at least they're all looking the same. And then if you need to make small improvements, you can kind of bump up every year.
Well, the thing about John that fits right in this, John's family, they were game fowl people.
Yep.
They understood going in, no matter what it is in chickens, there's a way to do stuff. If it works in one, it will work in another, because when it comes down to it, they're chickens. And we want to make it, to me, like it's all this special thing. No, they're just chickens. We spend a hell of a lot of money on them. We take care of them different, but we feed them all this stuff. Most people feed them shit they should never be fed and overfeed them because they're their babies. None have been my babies. They are chickens. Now, do I like them? Yeah. Chicken wins a lot of shows. We had a male that won 6 best of shows. He had a special place. But when it come right down to it, damn chicken. They eat, they poop, and they die. And that span, well, some things live long. I've seen a lot of birds, 8, 9-year-old, but most of them don't. So when you strip all that fluff away, you got chicken. They all came from game fowl. You got chicken.
Well, I'll speak to that a minute too, because that same bird in that batch that year, we had an exhibitor, a fellow exhibitor, said, "I'm going to beat that male one of these times." Well, hell, we never showed the same male twice, so we showed like 20 different males. So it was his brothers and his cousins and everything else. Whatever was in condition went to the show. That one happened to get in a little string there, and double shows help because you got 2 shots at it. I think one time we won champion of both shows one time with 2 different pullets, 2 very different pullets. So it's from 2 different families, I guess we'd call it, because they weren't from the same batch. And I was kind of amazed because the bird that him and I liked, nobody picked it. So it just goes to show that, sometimes people see things in your progress that you don't. And that was an example, because that show, both of us were amazed because we liked other birds better than the 2 that won.
Well, it cracks me up is the ones who don't think, and it's the reason they're outcrossing. First of all, they're afraid of inbreeding, but they don't believe in purity of blood. And I'm a firm believer that I believe that if you have birds that are uniform, consistent, and they're repeatable and predictable, then you have a pure family. And if you're always adding new blood, like outcrossing or infusion of any kind, that's, if you look at the evolutionary biology of it, it's basically gene flow. And you're not going to create a strain or a family until you stop that flow of genes coming in your family and then fine tune them from there. And we have a couple mechanisms in the Founders Program that we use that you'll never have to add outside blood. We can maintain the genetic diversity and never add outside blood, and it would prevent inbreeding depression. And when people get in there and look at the Founders Program, they go, "Oh, why didn't I think of that?" You know what I mean? It makes so much sense because they breed them to what we call the dead end zone, don't know what to do, start seeing issues, and then they bring in outside blood thinking that fixes everything. That didn't fix anything.
I
That
kind of
started your
like
problems.
the analogy of a Rubik's Cube. Once you get that damn Rubik's Cube all figured out and got all
Yeah.
the colors going, and then you bring in something else and you screw that all up. And
I love your guys'
what you're-
analogy, man. I'm telling you, I'm gonna have to steal some of these things, you know.
Ours are very simple because we're not definitely not a genetic gurus by any means. That being said, we've bred a lot of different stuff and made a lot of but using some of those techniques that you use to get there. And it's never a 1, 2, 3 generation deal. It's always like, where'd you get them birds? Well, those white coaches we've been working on for 14 years, and we didn't bring them out for 10. You know, because I was ashamed of them at first. There's things I just hated, and you know, slow but sure is the way you got to do it. And if you're making progress every year, you can see that progress, and you're consistently reproducing it. That's the big thing. Anybody can get one bird, but if you, like I said, that year we had 20 cockerels, any one of them could have won any time. It was more dependent on whether they were in condition or not. Yeah, that's the big thing on our end is they got to be almost perfectly feathered. Well, some of them are and some of them aren't, but they're still the same line. There's still this, I would still breed from that bird that's not in condition if I needed to. And I think people have a hard time wrapping their head around that.
You know, I would
when they start. Usually the ones that last figure it out pretty quick.
5 years.
Oh, yeah,
5-year rule.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what
5-year
we
rule.
have. It's the 5-year rule.
For me, 5
Because
years lets you know if you're going in the right direction, and it takes a
Exactly.
few more years to kind of feel like you have a family, and a few more years will really lock them in.
Right.
So 5 years is a good rule of thumb to just see if you're going in the right direction. If you're not,
Yeah.
if you're not seeing progress in 5 years, then you need to start over.
You're-
again.
We had an old friend, I have to bring him up because God love him. He was a grumpy old son of a gun. But Ed Miller, he was one of our mentors years ago, and he raised big black cochins, had the best there was. But he always had the 5. That's where we got the 5-year rule. He always said, in 5 years, you're going to screw them up 3 times and have to breed yourself out of it. So after 5 years, they're yours. That's your mess that you
But don't
created.
add blood into them at 5 years, then start
Yeah.
all over.
No, and that's it. Yeah, and
Go ahead.
you talked on one of the podcasts with Brian that I brought this up because I was the one that got that book reprinted. But Ralph Sturgeon's book,
Oh, yeah.
Start Where You Are. So Ralph really believed that. He believes you could take anything from square one to where you need to be.
Well, I like
and I
that
seen
concept.
him do it.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike will tell you he was at his house. And he was 90 years old, and he was crossing golden Polish into Seabrights to make them better at 90 years
Oh,
old.
You're talking about this book right here, right?
Yes, yeah. I was the one
I
that
love the concept because most people have what they need already on their yard. They don't need to go
Yep.
outside, and you can start as long as you got a cock and hen that in plagued with all kinds of deleterious genes, defects, and all that kind of stuff. Then you can improve them because a lot of times the genetics are in them. You just got to breed them and keep testing them to pull them out, and then
You
you
know,
take
he
advantage
did
of
it.
it. You know?
he
of
did
the
it.
same variety.
His
Yeah,
barred
no,
rocks,
yeah.
his barred rocks go back to E.B. Thompson. He bought them as hatching eggs in the, I think, the teens.
Yeah.
I mean, and he had that line for almost 80 years and never, everybody went to Ralph for birds, but Ralph never went to anybody else for birds. So he actually did it, and he was still doing it up until the day he died. He still had projects going, and it was an amazing place because his birds were not babied by any means. When we went there as kids to buy birds from Ralph, I think they were $5 a piece, but in the 70s, that was a lot of money. But he'd go get a bucket of wheat and he'd throw it on the ground, and pretty soon all these birds come out of the fields, out of the cornfields, just from everywhere. And if you could catch it, you could buy it. That was kind of
Yeah.
the secret.
That's what it was. Buy what you want there. Go ahead and catch it up. $5.
Yeah.
Okay.
He actually lived by that, and so that's one of the reasons my friend Walt Leonard was the original
Oh,
publisher.
I
of
remember
that
Walt.
bird.
Yeah.
Walt passed away from California, but Walt
Yeah.
published that book, and he had the rights to it. And after Ralph was gone, and the family got some royalties to it, but that was kind of all gone. And somebody in Australia was redoing it, and we finally Walt got them to quit publishing it, and he give the ABA the rights and the copyright to license the book. So we brought it back, and I actually did it the old way. I scanned in every page, re-edited every page, cleaned up the picture some. So the book that you have there that we produced is a little cleaner version. Ralph did 2 prints of that. I have to tell the story. And one of them, the pages were all out of whack. And they sold it anyway. He
no.
sold it at the shows for $5 a piece. But when you read it, you'd go to page 5 and then you'd have page 10. So you had to actually piece it back together. So I cleaned all that up and we got it republished, and it's one of our best sellers. So
I love it. I've got
Kevin
two
and
of them.
Karen
Yeah.
will scream because every time I get on here and talk about it, they get inundated with orders for that book. But bantamclub.com, you can actually buy it. So.
You know, you
I
never
always
told them
recommend.
what kind of birds you raise.
I did. I thought I did. American
No.
Games. You know, I have my own family called the Maximus line. I've been raising them for about. Well, me and my mentor, we got a pair of them, a pair of this one family from a breeder called Colonel Gibbons, and him and I, we bred them. Him and I shared the chicks. I bred them my way. He bred them his way, and then he moved to I think it was South Carolina. And just because of his selection and where he lives, they actually changed quite a bit. But neither one of us added outside blood. We just perfected them. I just looked. I used the Founders program that I'm using now, and I just looked for the traits that I thought were beneficial, culling all the defects and deleterious genes or anything I didn't like, and just little by little, I shaped them into a really nice family. And if you look at the pictures, which I show on my show from time to time, from what we call the Adam and Eve to what they are now, they're like night and day. And I
Yeah.
never added one drop of blood in them ever. Yeah.
And I think we talked on your show about him and I even. It tells you how different people select for different things. I'll get tired of something and send it to him, and it changes, or he'll bring it back to me and I'll have it for a few years. And so everybody individually focuses on different stuff, and you place that importance on what you want to do, and it will change the birds, even though they're the same line. There's nothing put into them. You just go a different way with them. We sell birds to people, and, after a few years, we'll look at them and think, my God, did that come from us? Yeah. They bred it a different way.
No, it's not just a different way. Here's the thing, is if you have a big flock of birds, let's say you have a couple hundred birds of one family. Okay. So I go to your farm and I'm able to select the cock and hen that I want to start with. Okay. I understand what I'm doing. I understand the breed. I say I collect the cock and hen. It is a small sample of your yard, but because it's smaller genes, basically genetic drift kicks in. I'm taking a small sample of your bigger flock. I'm condensing the genes, and then I'm going in a direction. If I know what to select as I'm doing it, from my two birds versus your flock, I could actually make a better strain than what you have because I'm dealing with a smaller number of genes, So that's why sometimes they become better than yours, because if they didn't buy as long as they're not buying birds plagued with all kinds of problems and they know what they're doing, they're going to go in a really good direction fast. And it'll only take your 5-year rule to figure out that his flock is better than yours.
Exactly. And
yeah,
I guess I say that most people we tell, they make too many matings. So every mating has to have a purpose. And in our hobby, they have a tendency to try to get numbers so that they're breeding everything they can instead of just breeding. I have an old pigeon guy that was a good friend of mine. He's gone now, but Bill Henderson, he always says, sell all your good birds. And he said, breed from the exceptional ones.
Yeah.
And he lived by that. And I don't care what he got. He was in many breeds over the years, but within about 5 years, he was a master breeder. He was kicking everybody's butt with those birds because he had a small place. He had just so much room. And he always said every mating's got to have its importance, and don't just make a mating to have chicks or have squabs in that case. But Bill Henderson was his name, and he was the master of many breeds, but he bred the same way. Everything that he had, there was nothing different there. He just used exceptional matings and then tested the offspring that come from the matings. And if it worked, it did. If not, it was back to square one. So
no, I'm a firm believer of that. You breed your standouts. You breed the ones that have the ability to take your strain to the next level. So I may hatch 100 birds or 100 chicks, but all I need is one cock and hen that are exceptional to take my birds in the right direction. But I'm also looking for the complete package as close as possible. The birds that are the closest possible to complete package. And yeah, that means I'm going to breed to less birds, but I'm going to breed to the best birds, and I'm going to move them along even faster. So that's the problem, is they have an empty pen and they think they got to put a rooster and a hen in there and produce something. You got, like you said, you have to have a purpose for every breeding, and everything has to produce a specific result. And yeah, it's like I get nervous when people say, well, I only hatched maybe a clutch or two. Chances are they're probably going to breed everything because they didn't get very many in the first place. So they don't have much of a selection, and they just breed to mediocrity all the time.
Yeah.
They just never actually improve them that way.
Well, we see that a lot.
Yeah.
Some people are driven by money. Breed as many as you can get on your yard so that you can make more money by selling more of your flock. So that's not always a good thing either.
It sounds really good, but there's a point where people are going to realize that, hey, maybe that this guy doesn't know what he's doing, or lady. Yes. And they're just, we see this. I'll give a breed as an example, the Silkies. So Silkies are hot right now. Everybody's got them. Everybody's raising a bunch of them, but the quality is very small. Mike and I can probably count on my hand 5 people that are really making an influence in that breed, and everybody else is just making a goddamn mess. And we've got 10 million colors, even the whites and blacks, which are pretty good. There's lots of variation in those. Like I said, there's probably 5 people in the country that's doing a good job at it, and the rest of them are kind of riding those coattails and selling them for crazy prices. And I hear this, and him and I just cringe sometimes with what they're getting for these birds. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. I guess quit buying the stuff is
well, I always tell people go to the smaller breeder who knows what they're doing, because the bigger breeders with a lot of birds, there's a lot going on there. They're always bringing outside blood to keep the vigor up, because their whole job is to keep them alive long enough to get them out and make some money. Okay. Yeah. So they're probably also pumping in all kinds of medications and vaccinations in them, even when they don't need it, just to make sure they look healthy. And I hear it all the time from members and followers where they say, well, I bought birds from so-and-so. I got them home and started to breed them, and they had all kinds of problems, not just defects, but they were sick as can be. Yep. And what do I do? Well, now, since you got them, you have to determine whether you want to move forward with them. Do they have what you're looking for? And then I send them over to Peter Brown and say, hey, help them get them healthy enough to get birds on the ground, and you can slowly work them off the medication. So I feel sorry for the buyers these days, because they have a big obstacle. It's hard to find good breeders, okay, with good fowl. And when you get them, you got to know what to do at that point. You got to know how to move forward with them.
Even before that, you need to do your homework. You need to, do research and figure out, okay, this is the breed that I want to raise. You need to know everything about that breed. You need to know the defects. You need to know all of the genes and traits that are going to go into that bird, the things that you want to look for. You need to know what you're going to look for, and you need to know what questions to ask when you do come across a breeder that you're going to buy from.
I got an example for you. This is quite a few years ago. We were thinking about raising Welsumers. There's something about that bird I like. Okay. And I started calling some people up, and everybody kept referring me to 2 different breeders, because I didn't want to start with hatchery birds. And I got a story about that too. But so one was on the East Coast and one was on the West Coast. I said, let me call the one on the East Coast and see what she has to offer. And so I talked to her for a while, and she told me all about her birds and everything, and said where she got them, how they're progressing, what they look like, and what she thought of them. And I always ask, what are your common defects? Because everybody should know, if you're a good breeder, you know what defects show up the most and what you have to deal with. And they were honest with me. She goes, well, I get a little white in the wings and everything. I go, oh, okay, that's progressive white. Well, I didn't think it was progressive white at the time until I met Brian, but I knew white was bad. I go, okay, I don't like that. So I decided to call the one on the West Coast, and she told me all about her birds and everything. And I asked her the same thing. I go, what are your common defects? She goes, I got white in the wings. And I go, is that a common problem with these birds? Because I've talked to one on the East Coast, and she says the same thing. And I go, well, yeah, I didn't have the white before, but I have the white now because I borrowed a cock from her to infuse into my birds to improve egg color. And now she has what we know now is progressive white. And so it's just people, I don't know, it's scary.
You're talking about a breed too that Barnvelders and Welsumers 10 years ago, you didn't see any of them. So they don't have a lot of history behind them. Most of what's here was imports before it got almost impossible to import. And the people that got them probably weren't members of the Breeders' Academy. I'll give you a plug there. And they were just putting birds together to get numbers and to get them out there. And we have a lady up in, she listens, so I'm going to call her out too. Michelle Ward, barn builders up in New York State, and they are fantastic.
Unbelievable.
And she uses some of the same methods, but she's not making a million matings. She's making very few, and she doesn't bring one to the show unless it's perfect. So she don't show an out of condition bareback bird. And I'm amazed how far she's come in such a short period of time with those birds, and consistent. Mike and I judged them a couple of years ago. I think, or I judged them and you were clerking, but her cockerels are just as good as her cockbirds. Her hens are just as good as her pullets, all the way down the line. I mean, there's not a bad one in there. So if you can find that right person with these fairly new, I call them new breeds, although they've been in Europe for years, they haven't been here that long, of any quality. So the hatcheries have had them, but you know what the game is there. It's getting eggs out and selling chicks. So they're not putting a lot of pressure on things the show people are going to put on them. And she's done a wonderful job with them. The Welsumers probably not as much. They're not as refined. They haven't got that down, but the barn builder bantams and large fowl, they've really got some nice showbirds out there. I made a barn builder bantam champion single comb clean leg at the ABA National out in Shawnee, Oklahoma. I think that's the first time that had ever happened. And I would tell you 9 out of 10 people didn't even know what the hell it was. It was so bad, I had to go pick another bird for APA reserve single comb clean leg because it's not recognized on the APA side. And there was people that, anyway. Yeah, it wasn't then. I think it is now. But everybody, what is that? I said, that's a damn nice barn builder. I said, these people have done a really good job getting the type and color down. That's not an easy bird to do.
No.
Double laced and all, there's all kinds of issues going on there as a show bird. But that's one, example of somebody that's done a really good job. And I think you could buy birds from her and not worry about all those minor problems you're going to have with what you get from everybody else.
And the thing you got to remember, if you're going out and you've done everything right so far. You studied what you like. You went to shows or whatever, and you see, and you pick whoever. This is where I want to get my birds because A, they win all the time or a lot. B, they all look consistent. I really like them. And you buy those birds. You know what they do next besides the outcross thing? You know what else they do? They don't frickin' listen to the person that they just spent their money on and all that time. It's like, how do you go from I want this to they don't know shit? How does that happen? Now that is insane.
Oh, there's always 5-year experts.
Yeah, my advice.
And it happens a lot.
Stay out of the sale aisle and stay out of the swap meets.
Yeah.
So if you want to buy birds from a breeder, go look at what they got in the show. And maybe they got something back in the sale area, maybe they don't. But 9 times out of 10, if it is, it's their calls. It's stuff they don't want to reproduce. Go over to the show and see if you can get something out of there. It may cost you a little more, but it's definitely going to save you in the long run.
Yeah. But listen to them.
Listen to what they tell you.
If you've had it 4 or 5 years and you're consistent, and then you want to see if you can improve and get better, have at it. But when they tell you what they do, why in the hell wouldn't you listen? Like you say, if you're going to get there, that improvement is in those 2 birds. There is improvement there. It's your job to get that improvement out of those 2 birds and go from there. And looking at the chicks and deciding what you're going to keep. My dad always did this. Dad was a horse trainer, and he would say either go into auctions or go to claim a horse if you're an anything and get a horse. And he'd say, what do you see in that horse? And he'd tell me, he said, son, sometimes you have to be able to look through the veil to what's possible with what's there.
Yeah.
You have to bring that up.
Be educated enough to know what's there.
Yeah, you do. The first 5 years, like you said, are crucial because those 5 years, it takes 5 years to see if you're going the right direction. But those 5 years, you can either go in the right direction or you can go in the wrong direction.
Yep,
really
I've
fast.
done it.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
But like
We
Mike
made,
was
we
saying,
made, yeah, we made tremendous, spectacular failures. And that's what I like to stress, and I let you go through here, was don't be afraid to fail. When you fail, make them spectacular. Because if they are, you're not going to go do that same dumb shit again. But if it's just
Or you
kind of
might.
bad, if it's kind of bad, you'll kind of go try it just to see if maybe you were wrong that it was that awful. It was that awful. Don't do it again.
I hate the word experimentation, especially when it's without a direction or a result, looking for a particular result. But I was listening to what Mike was saying is sometimes you can look into birds and you can see something that nobody else sees. Now,
Yes.
the original cock and hen, which I call the Adam and Eve for my family out here, when I look at them now, they had all. I mean, if I explained them to you, you would say, "Oh, that sounds good." But if you actually see the pictures of them, they got all kinds of problems. I mean, conformationally, if I told you what they had, you'd say, "Yeah." But if you actually look at the bird, the type is off a little bit. You know what I mean? He's just not quite right. And the one thing the hen did have was the carriage was way back, and she had really flat back. But I saw something in those birds, and even Tony, who I got the birds, him and I got the birds together. He was like, "What do you see in these things?" I go, "I don't know, Tony. I see something." And I created. When you look at them, when I started to where I'm at now, it's amazing. Like I told you, I never added outside blood, but I did. I saw something in them that I thought I could work with. Yeah. And I just put them what I have a cleanup process for the Founders Program, and I just put them through that cleanup process. And if you do it right, you're going to see huge improvements right away. And what does that tell you? There's a lot of genetic diversity in there you got to clean up. Okay. Once you get them in the foundation stage, it's subtle. It's more subtle. You got to be more patient. Your improvement's going to be subtle at that time, but you're fine tuning them. But I saw something in them that nobody else saw. And if I saw them, like if I would have got the same birds today, I probably would have never bought them. I don't know. I probably would, because I know more. But I kept with them. I kept working on them, and they improved. And
you started where you were with what you had.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I'm going to tell a story. Michael, remember this. We had a friend that lived right down the road from Mike, but he was an old judge and an old cantankerous banker, Clyde Weaver. And I wanted some white leghorn bantams. And we used to do what they call a carry up show. So at the fairs, you would bring your birds up, and they would judge them in the cages instead of in the carry up cages instead of in the show cages like we do now. And those guys would bring those white leghorn males up and throw them in them cages, and they were just gorgeous. They'd all start showing and just going to town. Well, I wanted some white leghorn bantams, and Clyde had them, but Clyde was not the best guy for husbandry. So I went to look at these birds, and they were god awful. I thought, oh my God. Yeah, I didn't pay a lot for them, but our old friend George Schruffler says, and George lived up there too. He says, "Now, Matt, I'm going to tell you one thing. You better listen to this." He says, "Don't look at them birds." He says, "Take them home and raise some stuff out of them. You will get some very nice birds." He goes, "He's line bred these for years." I said, "He don't know how to condition, and he don't know how to keep them, but he says those will throw good birds." And he was exactly right. I took them home, and I think I raised 25 or 30 chicks and had some gorgeous birds out of stuff you wouldn't have took home. I mean, they were that bad. And that's just an example there that if it's in there, you're going to get it out of there. If it's not in there, you ain't never going to get it out of there. But I was trusting in him and Clyde, know that he'd done them for years. And every once in a while he'd get one on Champion Row, and he might. But it was a young bird.
It was a strange day when he did, but yeah, he did. They were from Henry Hecker's strain, and Henry had some absolutely gorgeous, especially.
So he had it in there. He wasn't. With this, we talk about all the parts and pieces of husbandry and feeding and condition and breeding, and all. You have to be good at all that, and very few people are. There's some of them good at chunks of it, but to put it all together to get a show bird, you have to be good at all that. And that wasn't Clyde's foray, nor did he care. But I got good birds out of them. Did very well with those when I had them. So just an example of what you're talking.
I was so lucky because I just got around the right people, like Bob, who was he was so adamant about keeping the family pure, not adding and destroying, contaminating the family, not with genes or, not with genetics or with disease. Tony was all about form and structure, preservation, the whole bit, really understanding the breed and what makes up the breed. And then Doug was, he wasn't like Brian, where he taught the genetics to me, but in a way that I could understand it and use it.
Yep.
That you understand the traits of the bird, you understand what the genetic factors of those traits are, because you could have monogenic dominant recessive, which is simple. A lot of that is it's simple. I mean, it's just there's nothing difficult. You either breed for it or you cull it out, and then you have polygenics, which really make the difference because those are form and function traits. Those are multiple gene traits, and you got to select them and you have to breed for them quite different. Okay. And a lot of people think that, oh, I'll fix something like egg production or something like that, or behaviors or whatever. Well, that's a polygenic trait, and they think they can fix it by adding outside blood. No, you just mixed it up even more. Any
Yep,
improvement
worse.
is hybrid vigor, if
I think
anything.
one of the things I like about Brian was that most genetic gurus in this hobby are book genetic gurus. So you put this together and that together and you get this. Brian realized early on with our stuff is there's until you do that test mate, you don't know what the hell's there.
Well, he came from a different background where he worked with some scientists on a project, and he was their breeder. So he was able to really see what they were producing and what
Yep.
the differences were. And so he had hands-on experience. And that's where I can relate to him, because when I started, I always said that it was a big mistake, because when I first started, I loved the bird so much, the breed, the American game, that I wanted every variety that existed, every color that existed, I wanted. And I had like 16 of them out there. Okay. And I just was not making progress, but I was learning as I was going. I just didn't realize it. I don't think I'd be able to do what I do today if it wasn't for the fact that I went through that, and that went on for a long time, a good, 15 years maybe of my life, trying to make something of those varieties, which just wasn't really going anywhere. I'd make some progress here, lose it there, finally get something here, then lose it over here. It just seemed like it was a mess. And my mentors just kept saying, Kenny, you got to clean this up. You got to get rid of some of these things. You got too many. And so I just kept getting rid of the worst variety I had, working my way to the best one till I had like a couple different varieties. And then I eventually got rid of the second one and really put all my attention to that one. And with all the extra pens, I was able to hatch a lot more chicks, have a better selection, make progress, work them through the program properly, and they exponentially got better, big time.
And I think we say that often. You start with one thing and get that down before you go all Noah's Ark, like you said, and have every color in the standard, because you're not going to do justice to any of them if you do that. But if you can get one down pat, then maybe you can add another one in. And we've done this. And most of our stuff doesn't come to us from desire. It comes from inheritance. So when somebody dies or gets out, and here's these birds. So, okay, we're going to put this off to the side and do this here. And I would say about 60% of the time, it probably doesn't work. But 40% of the time we click with it. The buffs up there behind us is a good example. We had an old exhibitor pass away, and we got his flock, and they needed work. They needed lots of work. And I don't know how many years we got in them now, Mike, but.
Oh, God, I've had them since 73, but I mean, that bunch we got like in, 2002?
Yeah, I think that's when Freddie died. And then the good thing with our hobby is somebody knows you're working on them, and then all of a sudden all these birds start coming. Well, I got this line from this guy and this line from that guy. Yeah, so it was problems, but I guess when you start with total crap to begin with, you only got one way to go, and that's up. And it took a while. Believe me, it took a while. And it's a whole different color variety. Number one, buff's one of the toughest colors to raise. I don't care what anybody says. We've raised millions of them, and they come in bunches of one. But mixing things in, the good thing is they're all fairly related because there weren't very many lines of them out there. But by mixing in that one bird and doing the test mating, did that work? Yep. Okay, let's go next year. You still kept your Bane line the way it was, as bad as it was. We still kept them going, but we would slowly work them in. And I think now after, that's been 22 years ago, so we can win best of breed with that color pattern, which rarely happened even in the old days. And are they as consistent as the black and whites? Hell no. But we're starting to get more consistency. We had Tom Roebuck on a couple weeks ago, and he's a Mr. Buff, and he's helped us a bunch, and he has learned, from scratch himself, starting with crap, just absolute crap, and just making that progress every year to get him where he even put large fowl buffs into the bantams, which is something we do quite often just to kind of pick up type. But he's done amazing things with his buffs. And once we get that color evened out, they're going to be hard to beat again. So,
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Let's talk about some feed. We're going to do that. We're almost at an hour already. So I'll give you the spiel how
I'll be
I
here
got
for as
into
long as you want me. So.
Yeah, the feed business was, I think it was about 2000, maybe late 90s. The feed companies went to plant-based. Bovine encephalitis kicked in, and you weren't allowed to feed the same species back to that species, and then you weren't allowed to feed cattle back into anything else because of that. So the feed mills got the idea in their head that we're going to go all plant-based because, number one, if we don't use any animal-based protein, we don't have to sanitize that mixer after every batch. So it was cheaper for them to go that way. What we found out right away was we couldn't get a bird in condition on any of the, and there's a lot of them out there, but that straight plant-based feed, we just couldn't get them in feather. It was good enough for them to live and lay and all that. But for a show bird, you want that extra oomph. And in the old days, they used pork and bone meal, and we were fine with that. The birds did good on it. They feathered good. They produced good. So I think it was about 2012, a friend of mine, Michael Schlumbum, graduated from college and he started a feed company. And he says, what do you think we need here? I said, well, I can tell you what I need in my birds. And we come up with some formulas. And we went with that way, about 10 years, Mike?
Yep.
And we had one that was called the M&M Master Mix that him and I formulated that was a high protein pellet that had animal protein in it and some whole grains. And it was kind of a blend, but you have to know how to feed that. So most people in our hobby, they want to just feed. And with that feed, you had to make sure they ate it all because they didn't get the full nutritional benefit of the feed unless they consumed it all. And one thing I learned from the Gamecock guys, because there were a lot of Gamecock guys as feed customers, is they know how to feed a bird to get it in condition for the pit. They got that down. If they don't have that down, they're not very successful. And so that formula was kind of, and actually we sold that formula to a lot of Gamecock guys. Going a little further down the road, I wanted a specific feed to get birds to lay because what we were getting, what most feed companies make is the bare minimum to get them to lay. And because it costs more if you put more of this in there. So all those additives, the protein percentage, the mix of plant-based and animal-based, we come up with a formula. It was M&M, but it was always M&M if we made it so we could take the blame. But M&M Marigold Layer was one we formulated. And it actually was I was working with ADM then, Archer Daniel Midland, which is one of the biggest agricultural companies in the world. And they listened to us and they formulated this feed. Him and I and a couple other guys formulated it at the Ohio State Fair. And little did we know, one of our fellow exhibitors managed the mill in Bluffton. He said, oh, I can do that. So we come up with this formula. Basically, it was an 18% protein mini pellet because with bantams, we can't use the great big pellet. They just won't eat it well.
Yeah.
It was 18% protein. It had 5% calcium. It had, I think it was about 8% pork and bone meal in the mix with it. And then it was lysine and methionine was at the legal limits. So they have legal limits for that. You can't overdo it for federal government restrictions because at the end of the day, all the stuff could go back into the food chain. So you have to follow FDA rules and regulations. But we formulated that feed and it worked out really well. And to this day, I still feed it. But the feed is the biggest, I think, obstacle of most of the people in the hobby right now is finding something they can produce good birds with and not have to do I think whenever you start supplementing, then you're screwing up nutrition. So the least amount of supplementing that you can do with that feed, the better off you are. You're also better to buy it locally because two things about feed, when you start shipping it, it gets expensive and you want it fresh. So your best spot is to find a local guy that will make what you want and what works good for you. And you'll find out real soon with showbirds, whether it's working or not, whether you're having any success with the feed as far as feather condition. And then we have a whole different dilemma when we go into the breeding season. Are they laying? Are the birds fertile? All that good stuff. So that was kind of how I got in the feed business. I'm not in it currently. I got to where I couldn't throw 12 tons of feed a month no more, but we still keep an eye on it and watch what's coming out from other manufacturers and see what they're doing. And we have one here in Ohio that's about 30 miles away from me. Kallenbach is a real popular feed with a lot of the fanciers, and they have several varieties of that feed that are animal based. So with the plant versus animal based protein deal, we just wasn't able to get, Troiano and Purina are all Land O'Lakes now. Missouri, they're all one company, and they tend to make the same feed and put different names on it and put it in different bags and for different markets. And it's pretty popular with the big box stores. Again, I learned how to read a code tag on a feed. And if you've got feed, learn how to read your code tag to make sure, because after 6 months, it loses all of its oomph. So whatever additives they put in there, if it gets old, it's no good. We find this with starter a lot. They don't sell it this year. They put it in the back and then bring it out next year. Well, guess what? Your starter doesn't have anything in it it's just too old. So getting it fresh and getting what you want in it. And it feeds like a voodoo thing. And I found this with the Gamecock guys. They all have their little secrets, but basic nutrition, they got to have it.
Actually, most of them don't know what they're doing. They're just mixing whatever looks good. They don't even know what the ingredients are, half the time. For me, it was kind of weird. It's like I met a nutritionist at one of the poultry shows, and him and I started talking, and he helped me put together. I told him what I wanted, what I'm looking for, because a lot of the Gamecock feeds, there's really no pellet. There's not a lot of nutritional value in a lot of the Gamecock feeds. It's
the old whole grain.
Yeah.
It's the old whole, and the pigeon guys are just as bad.
Yeah. So I asked him to help me put something together that I can go to a mill and do. We call it the Maximus mix. And I was getting it from the mill for a while, but and then I had a partner at the time too, and we were just kind of sharing the feed. But when I decided not to have a partner anymore, then I couldn't store that much feed. And so I went back to him. I go, how can I take this same mix and recreate it with what's on the shelf? So then we sat down and said, okay, this is the type of feeds we have on the shelf, like here in Ramona. So if you did this and did this proportions, you'd be very close to what we created. Okay. So I did that for a while. I call that the Maximus mix, but it's been very difficult because some of the feed manufacturers or mills or whatever you want to call them, there's some feeds they're not making anymore. They're hard to get. So it made it even more difficult. So then until I could figure it out, I went to the all flock I was mixing the all flock with Gamecock mix and that was working fine and everything. I just had to have the ratios right. It was so funny because one of the reps from Nutrina, he was at the meeting with Mike where we met Mike, and he said he sent me samples of everything they have from Nutrina. It was 4 bags.
Yeah,
I have them right here. Okay, it was the Harvest Blend, the Feather Fixer, the High Pro Scratch, and the All Flock, which I do like the All Flock quite a bit. And he gave me them and says, use these and see what you think. Well, I didn't have time to really test them and exactly the way I wanted to and have certain birds eat what and see what I thought. So I took all 4 bags and just mixed them into one. And when was that? Was that November, Mike?
No, that was January.
Was it January? I thought
it was January. Was
I
it
had my
November or
surgery in
January?
January.
When did I go out to Jim's?
It was in January because I think that's
No,
when
it was November. It was
November.
Thanksgiving.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think it was November.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's when he did it, and so he gave it to me, and I mixed them in, and my birds, and I've been feeding them this ever since. And they're active, they're healthy, they feel good in the hand, they're laying real well,
And
they got
like
nice
it.
shiny feathers. I mean, they look beautiful. And so I said, well, let's just keep this going for a while. So I've equally mixed all 4 of these feeds into one, and I love it. I don't overthink it. I just do it, and it's working. I've never seen them healthier.
I mean, here's the problem. You can have people that are in the islands, South Seas and things like that. They're having a really hard time getting good feed out there.
Not the feed that's not too old, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
It's most
really
of it's
hard.
probably shipped in. Yep.
Yeah, Nutrina I love Nutrina. I mean, to me, I've had the best luck with them. I think I love their feeds, but I will say this, that you don't want it sitting on the shelf very long.
Mm-mm.
You want to get it as
And
early
use
as you
it.
can, as fast as you can, and use it. Get it.
Some of the
eaten up.
advantages to like Nutrina, Land O'Lakes, it's Land O'Lakes, but Nutrina, Purina, Missouri are all owned by the same company. But the advantage of that is, number one, what they have that a lot of mills don't have is quality control. So they're a big enough company, ADM's the same way, that you're going to consistently get the same thing in every bag every time. Where you go to a smaller mill, and we'll have to go to this thing, I call it low cost formulation. So Kent started it years ago, and ADM uses it. So they use the same amount of grain mix regardless of what it costs. Where some mills will go, if corn's cheaper this week, guess what? We're going to put more of it in. So at least those formulas are consistent. You're getting the same thing every time, where you're not getting all beans one time and all corn. And for land flocks and backyard chickens, that's fine. But for a show bird or something you're trying to get in a certain, you can't have that variation in feed. You can't, because that messes them up. I've seen it throw them in molt. I've seen some feeds where they just don't do good on it. I mean, they just don't thrive on it. Well, that's something we spend some time on. Is, you're out there in your yard, watch them eat, watch them move around, see what they're doing. If it's a grain mix feed, what they do is hunt and peck. They'll sort out what they like and leave what they don't. Yeah. So that's what we always tell everybody, they have to eat it all. So don't overfeed them so much that they've got a bunch left over or kicking it out, because that's what they'll do. I mean, they got to eat everything that's in that mix. That's why we like the pellets, because there's one thing there. They're going to get it all. They're getting all their nutrition in that one pellet. You don't have to worry about supplementing and adding this and that. I mean, we were to the point with animal protein where we would add cat food in it, dry cat food, just to get a certain percentage of that into the feed so that they would feather better, because the straight plant-based, they just don't for us.
It's got to be the amino acids, I think.
Your amino acid and your lysine, methionine balance has got to be there. There's some basic stuff that have to be there. And then all those feed companies have their proprietary stuff that they add into it. ADM has them, Kallenbach has them, Nutrina has them. They have a certain stuff that they get in there. Number one, to keep it fresh, like you said, to give it some shelf life. Yeah. And number two, to keep it consistent. That's what they want. They're like us with breeding. They want every bag of feed, whether you buy it in California or you buy it in Maine, to be the same, and not. You don't have that with the small mills. Believe me, the mill that we started with, they had two Amish guys at the end of the line holding the bags and on a 50-pound scale, bagging the feed up and then hand sewing it. Yeah, to the point where I go over to ADM in Bluffton, has a robotic bagging, palletizing line where everything is consistent. I think I've sold 1 million bags of feed, and I might have had 2 bad ones. So that's the big thing when you're looking for feed.
I had them both.
Yeah, he probably got them both. Yeah,
I had both bad bags. Both.
Well, I agree. Some feeds are better than others, and some people struggle with trying to get the right feeds and all that. But we've been using these feeds that are available for a long time, and I've never seen. I mean, people seem to get by. Yeah, like I said, some are better than the others, and sometimes you can see the difference. But I think the thing that's causing the biggest problems is, and I can think of one in particular, is supplements.
Yep. They're
causing so much issue. They're overusing them. I think the supplements are overstimulating. They're losing they're losing muscle in the breast. They're losing weight. Their reproductive is going down.
Nail on the head. And
I see this all the time. And it's like, first of all, I would stop using it for one thing, or at least use a lot less of it and not as often.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so
they tend to always focus on protein. And here's what I found real quick is there's different levels of protein and different values and whether the chicken can utilize it. The bird itself can only utilize 16 to 8%. An adult bird will only utilize 16 to 18% of that protein. And then it goes right out the back end as crap. And as a coach and breeder, we can tell you, if you feed them that high protein stuff, you're going to have a mess in the cage the next day. So there's only a certain amount of that the bird can actually utilize. So most of them want to go, let's go more protein. Let's up that. I've seen them go as high as 40%. Well, what it does, it actually burns the bird up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Your longevity goes to pot. Your productivity goes to pot. Your laying, everything. So don't just focus on protein. There's more in that feed than just the protein. We want to know lysine, methionine, calcium, what kind of calcium they're using to get, in there to make them lay. So all those parts got to go to it. And keeping it fresh. Number two, those are the big issues I seen. Um, I've seen people use that real high protein feed and they just burn their birds up. So kind of a watch out. I know, with game birds especially, you don't want them doing that. So
Yeah, and then you got some that believe, well, you don't have to feed that much per day.
Yeah, it's like I'll feed my birds between 3 and 4 ounces a day, depending. I know which birds need more feed and which ones need less. And I think it's a selling point for this particular company, if it is a company, that if you use our feed, you don't have to feed as much. Therefore, you're going to save money because their feed is really expensive.
yeah,
And okay, fine, you don't have to feed as much, maybe because there's a lot of nutrients in it. But if they eat a little tiny bit really fast, what are they going to do the rest of the day? Their bodies are going to start eating themselves, even though they got a certain amount of. So I have a problem with that. I still think that they need a certain amount of feed, even though it's different qualities. I need a certain amount of feed because eventually they're going to be looking for something to eat, even though they're supposedly already have in them what they were supposed to have for the day. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that they're using that as a selling point for their feed because their feed's so expensive that if you use our feed, you don't have to feed as much. I have a problem with that.
There was my
Well, yeah, but
byline in the business, I guess, was if you're complaining about the price of feed, you got too many chickens.
Exactly.
Number one, it has to be something that works for you. They
Yeah.
have to eat it. Him and I have gotten bags of feed where they will absolutely not eat it.
Yeah.
Big name brands that they will, especially if they've been on something that they like. And you try to, I had that with customers all the
switch it
time.
up.
They run out of mine and they go to the tractor store and get a bag of Dumore, which is probably the worst going. And they said, those birds won't eat that. I said, no, because they're getting what they want out of what you're giving them. And then all of a sudden you give them this crap and they're not going to eat it. And if they do eat it, they're only going to eat it to subsist and not to thrive. So yeah, you'll talk to 10 people and they'll give you 10 different feed things. And him and I mixed our own. We've made different blends and, went back to the old books and pulled back some of the old stuff. And, I remember in the 70s when they first come out with bagged crumbles, we used to grind our own feed on the back of an 8-inch tractor. And my uncle had this formula and I had 2 shovels of limestone and this and that. And they had what they called back then was supplement, which the supplement had all the good stuff in it, but you mix that with your grain. We had raised our own corn. So when I could buy feed in a bag that I didn't have to mix, that was like God. I talked to Clell Egler about this years ago. I said, do you remember it was Ohio Farmers was the first one to come out with bag crumbles, land mash. It was $1.60 a bag.
Oh,
and those farmers just shit their pants because you're not going to pay $1.60 for a 50-pound bag of feed when you can grind it for this or that. I said, I ain't got to grind it. I said that we would grind up feed in November.
By the way, weren't they 100-pound bags back then?
No, they were in 50-pound burlap
really?
sacks.
I remember 100-pound
No, we
bags.
never did hundreds because I don't think I could lift them. But
I remember
now they want to charge you for a 50-pound bag and give you a 40-pound bag too.
Oh yeah,
we do see that. But
yeah,
I think that was just because a lot of women were getting into the hobby and they couldn't carry those bags, so they made smaller bags to make them more manageable. But yeah, when they went to the crumble, that was a godsend. And then when they went to the pellet, the mini pellet was really good for us for the bantams because the bantams will eat the crumble. But the problem with crumbles and the worst you can do is mash. They will waste mash. I don't care what I've tried it.
Yeah,
we had an all mash based feed for a while, and I scooped more out of the pen than what I was.
My birds will not handle mash and crumble. They'll waste it all.
Yeah,
they'll scratch it in the dirt. Never
play in it.
Yeah,
yeah.
So
that was.
And here's
that was
the
the selling
too.
point for pellets was that you always want feed utilization, and I have drop pens, so I know when they're eating it and they're wasting it, and they waste plenty, but I know how to regulate that because I can see what's in the bottom of the pan. And that was a big thing with us with changing around a little bit was they're eating this really good and they're not wasting it. And we found that with starter. I'll give this story because I ran out of regular chick starter, so I had this meat bird from ADM. It's their meat bird feed. And I thought, well, that's all I got. I got all these chicks. I got to feed them something. And I went about a week on a 50-pound bag, and I told him, I said, you're not going to believe this because chicks notoriously will waste feed. they'll get in there and you'll see it in the drop pans and the brooder.
Yeah.
I said, I put this meat bird in there, and I said, they ate every bit of it, and they didn't kick it on the floor. And when I'm there the next day to give them more, they're waiting for it. And so we kind of switched to that meat bird feed. It's designed to make broilers, ducks, turkeys, and all that grow out in their allotted time frame. But the difference in the birds after we had them on that's all we use now. So, and all of my customers switched to the meat bird for their starter grower, and it's worked out really well. And it was all by accident, because if I wouldn't have ran out and only had that left to feed them, I would have never tried that on, especially Bantams. But the growth rate, and he can tell you that you just can't believe the difference between it and regular starter. So if you got a chance to find some meat bird feed, I don't care what brand it is, there's several out there. There's a little more oomph in that for some reason that those birds just thrive on it.
You got to be careful with that American Games, because early growth is not what you want, because then they don't develop properly later down the road. So we got to keep it as natural as possible, so they're growing and developing at the right rate, so otherwise they'll change the way they look quite a bit. Did you want to say something? Yeah,
no, what I was going to say, back to feeding them less because they don't need it, because they have all the nutrients and the little bit of the pellet that they're going to get. Yeah, like what Kenny was saying, what are they going to eat for the rest of the day? Not all your birds have the opportunity to just go out in free range for the rest of the day, finding bugs and grass and all that good stuff. A lot of them are penned up. So what are they doing with the rest of their day? Starving.
They're eating each other.
Yeah. And they get bored.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've seen it. I've watched it happen, not at home, because I'm dicking around with them all the time. I mean, that's what I do. So I just do this, and it's the afternoon, and they're all looking retarded, standing there looking at me, and so I give them oats or just something, so they got something. They'll just scratch it up. I don't know if they eat them, don't care, but they got something to do.
Yep.
Or if not, if they're in together, they will eat each other because they are bored.
Yep.
I mean, they've got a brain the size of your fingernail. There's not a whole hell of a lot going on in there. They're bored.
If you're blessed to be able to leave them out, they're going to get what they need out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the feed is kind of like extra. It's their mainstay diet, but they're going to pick up what they need: grass, bugs, dirt, or whatever. That's a good thing. If you're in a situation where I'm at, where they're all inside, they can't be out, because they wouldn't last 10 minutes if they were out. You got to go a different route, and then you have to monitor how they're eating it. And birds are different. Mike's got birds here that I've had for a couple months now. There's one bird that drinks a quart of water a day.
Whoa.
And the bird, there are two white coaching females. There's a bird right next to her that I might fill that up twice a week. That bird drinks water. I mean, she will rake everything out of her feed dish until it's all out. And then she'll be real hungry the next day. She's learning. And I found out with moderns were that way too. They play in it. So they're bored. So they just rake it out. Yeah. Well, on a drop pan with broiler flooring, you knock it out. Guess what? You're not going to eat. If it goes on a regular floor, they can pick it off the floor, but not there. Yeah. So they soon learn that, hey, he's feeding me today. I better not rake it all out, or there ain't going to be nothing in there. But with the drop pans, I've been able to monitor individual birds and how they're, and I've always done that, I guess, with pigeons and doves to see how they're eating. And you can also tell whether they're eating or not. And that's when birds go off feed, that's a terrible thing, because they usually 2 or 3 days off feed and they're gone. They're not going to. And we do have some supplements. We do use Nutri-Drench is one I swear by, just because I've saved some birds with it. If they go off feed and water, shoot a few drops of that down their throat, and usually 9 times out of 10 the next day they're back to eating. So they get something off where they're not, thriving real well, or they get sick and they go off feed. They're usually done in a couple of days if you don't do something. And I don't medicate, so that one I will give them. It's basically it was formulated for pigeons originally. Now they make one for poultry, but it's just, I think it's vitamins, electrolytes, and some sugar. I think is what's in it. It gets them over that hump to where they want to start eating again. But I think you have to always watch. Well, you got a lot of birds. You have to watch how they're eating, how they're drinking, how they're pooping. That's another thing. You can tell a lot by what's coming out of them. And that's how we know when too much protein wasn't a good thing, because we got all this crap in a pen, or you got a white coaching that looks like she's got diarrhea.
Yeah.
And with pigeons, I learned that early on. So pigeons, I went to away from all the voodoo grain mixes and whatever to I use it's made by Missouri, which is Land O'Lakes and Neutrino, but they make it used to be Purina gold pellets. They called them gold checkers, but now it's made by Missouri. But it's all in. I don't have to worry about mixing all that stuff together. And the birds hunting and picking. They eat one pellet every day and they have their grit. And pigeons are a little different than chickens. They get what they'll clean up in a day, and I want that feeder empty when I come in the next day. Otherwise, they'll do the same thing. You're wasting it. They'll rake it out, and it'll be all over the place. So
Yeah.
everybody's got their own different systems of feeding. That's mine. It's worked well.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something. When you hatch out chicks, all right, do you do anything different in their first water?
No, not really. But I let the hens do it these days. I got rid of my incubators because it's just too much work, and the hens just do such a good job. I don't do anything extra. I'm a firm believer that if you can't survive in my yard without extra attention, you don't belong here.
Well, the hens, I know what the hens do. The hens, if you let them sit and brood, they won't call them to eat until they've drank. They drink first.
Yeah, I haven't sat there and watched them do that, so I'm not sure about that. I just know when they go out there, they're popped out of the egg and they're running all over the place, and they're doing their thing. And I lay a board down, put the water and the feeder on there, and they do their thing, and I just let the hen take care of everything. So, and if she's not a good mother, I get rid of her. If she produces really bad offspring, I get rid of her. I selectively breed for really strong, healthy hens that produce really strong, healthy chicks. And I don't want to have to do any extra work to make that happen, Yep. So I don't give them any extra of anything. So, yeah, I keep it pretty simple here.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Matt, have we had, is there some, it's funny that no one has said anything on the.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Now we're live because there's 19 people liked it. And
yeah, we're live. I know we're live, but it's just weird. There's been no highs, no nothing. All right. Well, I guess everybody is getting everything they need without asking a single question.
We're throwing out so much information so fast. I know how that is. If I'm watching a show that I really enjoy, as I'm typing, I'm missing something. So that might be it. I don't know. But
and it's a little early here for people are probably still at work. So
they're probably listening as they're working or driving a car. Oh, there we go. We got one.
Somebody's listening.
Hey, Judith.
Yeah.
Hi, Judith.
So, I'll answer any questions. They've got any questions for me, as far as reading. Yeah.
Oh, hey, you know what? There's something I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
When I was out there judging, what are those little tiny
Aztec
Mexican bantam things?
I know.
Those are
I think they're called
they are the neatest little things. And I Jeff and I, Halbach, we were looking at them. We just thought they were so neat. I had no freaking clue what they're supposed to look like or what they do with them, but they were the neatest little shits I have ever seen.
Like you have a teacup poodle, things like that. I think that is where they're going with that. And I wanted to ask him really bad, but I didn't feel that, they were so busy doing their judging. And
they do their own thing, man.
That I didn't feel comfortable asking him and, getting a clue of what they were doing.
They're just really tiny. I totally
whatever that is, whatever that name is. They don't look like a Sarama. They're tiny. No,
it's
but
like
their whole shape and stuff is just.
It's like a tiny bantam American game.
I'm so kind of I think they're kind of old English-ish.
Yeah.
But they've reduced them down, and we see a few of them around here.
They are cool.
I think
there's a lot of groups out there with them too. I was searching it out.
I totally missed them. She didn't even tell me about them. I was there the whole time. I had so many people coming up to me, meet me, and talking to everybody that I didn't even see them. I didn't even know where they were.
There was a whole wall of them, man. There was a whole.
I totally missed
it.
I wish I would have saw
it, Roberto.
Yeah.
Okay, that's different than what I was thinking of. The Kariki. It's kind of a little old English looking thing that's real tiny like that. I don't
But
think I've
these
seen those.
judges, they are just
No,
cool.
I didn't, because I didn't feel that I didn't feel like they were approachable at the time.
The breeders weren't very.
No, they were
Oh.
so busy doing their thing, and the judges were so busy judging, because there were a lot of them there. There had to be 100 at least.
Or more.
Of those
Really?
little
I
guys.
missed that?
Yeah, they
How
were.
did I
Oh
miss
yeah,
that?
you
were
missed
right
you missed
across
the whole
from
thing.
from the American
Wow.
Games.
And Jim just let them. They run their own gig. I mean,
Mhm.
they run their own show. They have their own judges, and it was just cool.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, they were going around there, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know what they're doing, but whatever it is, they're doing it awful fast and really having a heck of a good time. I mean, they were just going with that shit. It was fantastic. I don't
Oh
know.
wow.
It was
But they were
serious
effective.
business.
And the colors, there was all kinds of
Yeah.
colors and variations of colors and shit. It was really neat.
Yeah, but from
Oh,
what I
look
saw
into
with the
them.
confirmation of body, I mean, these guys were spot on. As
Oh, yeah.
tiny as those
Yeah.
birds were, their confirmation of body
they
was
were
nice.
little. I mean, they were little.
Yeah,
But they were
really
active as hell. I mean,
Wow.
they
Yeah.
just dance around there. They were really cool. I
What was
really
the next
Yeah.
project,
I know.
Mike?
No. I have no freaking clue what I was looking at, but it was enjoyable as shit because it wasn't ours. Somebody else had it. They were having such a good time. I got happy watching them be happy. And I mean, it was amazing to me. And when the show was over, wow. And it was like, how in the hell do you get out that quick?
Well, the same thing with the American Games. I didn't even really shoot any
Yep.
footage of them, because I figured, oh, they're judging right now. It's really busy. There's a lot of people around. I can't get in there. I'll go back to it later. And I went back about an hour and a half later, and half of them were gone. I think the only thing was left was the champion. So
Yeah, they
got
had
to
those
film the
tents set up.
champion.
Because I started judging, and I'm thinking, well, look, when I get over there,
Yeah, you're all
Fine.
gone.
and I said,
Oh.
okay. But
So
yeah, there was a lot of American games there too. A lot of
Yeah.
it was really cool.
Yeah, it would have been nice if the weather was better and you could have put them outside on the grass, because they had a really nice grassy area outside.
Yeah.
And that way you
That's
could
a
have
beautiful
spread them
place.
out a little bit more.
Yeah, it was a beautiful place to have a show.
Yeah,
I
it
loved
was.
it. And the surroundings, everything. I like the sports bar next door. I visited that after I got done.
Did you?
I had a beverage or three. It was really good.
Or 3.
Yeah, I had
I was
to wait for
gonna-
Jim because he had to take me back to the hotel, and he was busy. And I sure shit wasn't going to help.
I'm
So I
surprised you
had
had
big
energy
old
for
steak.
anything. You guys look so tired. I mean,
Yeah.
I stuck around
I
just
was-
so I could talk.
I was
and,
worn out. I had a big old steak, 2 or 3 beers. I'm watching the horse races. I'm listening to the guy next to me betting, and I'm just looking, thinking, ain't no way. It was hilarious. They get up and scream and yell, and boy, they pooled their money. It was, I had a great time just watching these guys and eating and drinking a few of the malts.
Man, we should have joined them after the show.
They didn't invite us.
Oh my
I
goodness.
couldn't find you. I couldn't find anybody.
Oh, really? Oh,
No, once we had talked, and then we talked again, it was like, I don't know where anybody went.
Oh no!
Don't have
After
a-
we talked to you and Jeff, we took off at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were still there quite a bit longer.
What
Oh.
we're talking about, guys, if you're not familiar, is Paris Valley had a chicken show. It was a double show, right? And I mean, they had an area for the Saramas, they had an area for American game, they had an area for the domestic, they had an area for the ducks, geese. I think you even had a couple turkeys there too
Oh
that
yeah,
day, and an area for the FFA and 4-H community. So it was a really big show, and it was really a nice event. Yeah, loved it. Are you guys going to do the Ohio National? You going to be judging
Yeah.
that?
I will
he
be judging.
judges.
it.
I've never been asked to judge, and we're not going to go into any of that here. Okay? But
I
he
do the
judges
junior show.
the juniors, so that we can show.
But you have to realize their junior shows 2,000 to 3,000 birds, so it's bigger than most open shows. It's kind of the hubbub of the fall when all those juniors come together. They got every class of showmanship, I think, from peeweed up to 18-year-old. They have seminars. They really do it. Mary and Tim Noveska and Jim Ward and some of those people down there really do a good job putting that junior program to Betty Weingartner. I know I'm going to miss somebody and piss them off, but there's a whole group that run that junior part of it, and they've built that up to probably the biggest junior show in the country.
So we're
So
talking 4-H and FFA. Is that your junior classes?
actually, they can be anything. They don't even have to be in 4-H or FFA.
Okay.
They just have to be under 18 and raise birds. So you see
Nice.
very good birds that usually there. We've
Are
had
you guys
one of
coming?
them.
We keep talking about it.
No.
It just tends to be in a bad time of the year because we have our October is like really full. By the time we're done, we're exhausted. And I don't know. We keep talking about going.
I would love to go. My problem is I have a cat and I don't know what to do with her if we're gone for a week or so. We can get somebody to watch the birds and take care of the birds, but she's an in-home kitty, in-house
Yep.
kitty. So and she's a shy one. She doesn't take kindly to somebody she
if you
doesn't
can't
know.
make this year's the APA National, and next year will be the No,
2 years.
won't we back there again, Matt, for the ABA?
We got Arkansas. I think there's
The year after Arkansas, isn't it?
So this year's the APA or the ABA National?
The APA is this year. The ABA will be in Lodi, California.
yeah,
The
it'll be up
last-
in
The
Where's
last
that?
weekend of January will be in
I don't
Lodi.
know. Where is it?
It's
In
at
California?
the Lodi Grape Festival Fairgrounds or
Is that Northern
grounds?
California?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
south of Sacramento, probably about
Oh, that's up
a
there.
half an
long
hour.
ways.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah.
And I'll be
That
We're
shows-
down by the border.
I'll be
Where's
judging
That
you.
shows that's the biggest show in California. So Pacific
Why
wow.
couldn't they do
Northwest.
one in Riverside? I mean, that's easy. It's easy
Until
going
Jim
for
brought
us.
that show back, the Southern California shows have just about died. I used to do Fresno and Bakersfield. They had good clubs over there.
Yeah.
I think I was in San Diego once. They had a show, and then Dave's show at Ventura was a big show, and then it kind of
Yeah, that was.
he just didn't have a lot of help with that. So he's getting up there. So that was
Yeah.
a beautiful facility, beautiful location, right on the
Yeah, it
ocean.
was.
Seaside. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it
then
was
used to
beautiful
be
there.
one in San Francisco years ago. It was called it the Cow Palace. That was a big poultry show up there. It was kind of the precursor to the PBBA, and they've been in like 5 different locations. I've been out there to Modesto. I've been to Stockton. I've been where's Betty and Jim and Bonnie live up there north of Sacramento. I can't remember the name of the town, but
Yeah.
it was up there for a while. So they moved it around at different places. But this grape festival grounds they have it. That's just beautiful. Nice show, very well laid out. Good people. So it's worth the trip if you can get up there. But it's a ways.
I'm judging
Oh, which one?
that the one in Lodi.
I was actually invited to judge a show up there near Stockton.
Visalia?
No, it was up higher.
Higher than that. Yeah.
But I didn't
Yeah.
think I could make it because I just had hip surgery. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one up. They call it Golden Coast. It's up there at Paso Robles, I think. That sound right? I'm trying to think of who runs that.
Yeah,
one.
I think so.
It's over by Cupertino and over that way, kind of south of San Francisco a little bit.
oh yeah, we don't know those areas very well.
No, I've never been up that far up to
Yeah.
California.
That's a long ways.
California's a
Yeah,
big
it is.
state.
Yeah, it is. I've
It is.
drove from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, it can be a full day trip from San Diego to San Francisco.
Oh yeah, it's a good 8 hours. No,
it's
12.
for 12 or more.
12-hour
yeah,
trip,
easily.
Yeah, with your traffic, it's going to take more anyway.
Oh, yeah, forget the
Yeah.
traffic.
Yeah, up the 5.
Nothing to LA is
Oh, my
crazy, you know.
God. Up the 5 freeway. It's a 2-lane highway. Oh, it's awful. With all the
But on the
semis.
5,
Yeah.
I've drove that one.
I will say that
That's
the
scary.
traffic in San Francisco, Oakland, Sacramento is nothing like LA.
No,
Seriously.
no.
Oh no, nothing like down there. That is just totally insanity.
You got to
Yeah,
get
that's
through there
whenever-
early.
It's bad over here in a lot of places. Like Atlanta is never good. Chicago is a total cluster at all times. But driving through LA, yeah, it takes the cake, baby.
I
Never
say
seen
Well,
that.
we can handle everything else because we go through LA now and then.
No,
Yeah,
you got
actually,
to get there at
LA's
the right time. That's it.
LA's at
Yeah.
the top of the list, but the worst place I ever drove in is Albuquerque, New Mexico.
No
'Cause
kidding.
they don't have any lines on the goddamn roads, and there's 8 lanes,
Oh
and
my
it's just like
God.
it was raining and it was like a free for all going into
Oh,
Albuquerque.
geez.
I thought, oh my God, that was the worst I ever was in. And I've drove from LA to Long Beach several times, and that's not pretty. But
And
yeah.
Long Beach isn't that far from LA.
no, it takes forever to
Takes
get
a
there.
long time.
Yeah.
It's just that's like I drove from I landed at LAX and had to be in San Diego.
Oh, why'd you do that?
I don't know why. I was working for a company, and that's where they put me.
Oh, wow.
And so, they rented me a car, and I drive down there, and I
Oh
thought,
no.
this is the longest. What is it, like 78 miles or 80 miles? Or
Yep.
An hour and a half, usually,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, well, no, and so I had to be there at 9 in the morning. So of course, when I have to get on the freeway, that was the longest 3.5 hour trip to go absolutely nowhere I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. No, you should have went into Lindbergh Field. You're going to
I
San
know.
Diego.
I know now a lot of places, but hey, they booked the flight. They did all this preparation, and those girls were terrible. They booked it for us, so
Oh, wow.
yeah, I learned a lot back then. So
No.
anyhow,
Because you're going down the 405, and that's crazy too.
Oh.
yeah.
Okay, so I've got a side question since we're talking about freeways and all that stuff. We can talk about something other
Did the
than
chicken
chickens.
cross the road?
No.
Oh.
Mike, what did you think of the Kentucky Derby this year?
I can't say it was a strange race because they're all strange races. The
Yeah.
Kentucky Derby is an animal of itself. I got lucky. I had the winner.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, by mistake.
Yeah, because I would have not
yeah.
have thought that he was going to win the way he started off on that race.
Well, that's the Kentucky Derby. I mean,
Yeah.
the crowd of horses. So you got the ones in front, and they're going, most of them at idiotic speed, because most of them aren't that good.
Okay.
They're good horses, but good horses and great horses, big difference, right? And so they're up there and they're all vying, and then you got 20 horses. So the horse on the rail that end up second, the maiden that end up third, and Golden Tempo, they all come from out of it anyway. So when they broke, well, the one got slammed off the fence, the one horse a couple of times. But once that was over, after 100 yards, he didn't get beat on too much. But they all came together, and they stayed out of trouble back there. And that group in the middle just beat the hell out of each other, going into the turn, around the turn, and then going down the backside, and then going into the turn for home, and then they're all trying to move at the same time. That happens about every single year. So it's usually, it's like, how in the hell did that horse get there? But I mean, the rider did a fantastic job on the winner, on Golden Tempo. What he actually did was he followed his brother, because Irad was on the one horse and he started moving earlier, and Jose just waited. And that was the horse to beat coming from out of it, was Irad. I don't care about the maiden. We're not going to talk about Uxelli. So so Jose just swung out, and he just sort of followed wherever
He went
Irad
around everybody.
And his horse, well, that's basically, if you can do that and lose ground, you can't get in trouble if you're outside of them.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to come out to hit you. They're all going in.
Yeah, as close
So
to,
I thought it was great. And I end up having him because I like the 18 horse, who ended up, I think, 7th, 8th, 9th. I don't know. But he was in that scrum. He was one of the favorites. And that when I went to bet him, my fat finger, I thought I hit the 18. I hit the 19. Didn't know I had done it until after the race. And I'm sitting there and I was out on the porch. And I hit my app and I went, holy shit, what did I hit? And sure enough, the money I bet to win on the 18 went on the 19. And of course, he paid $40 some. So that was a good one. And I think the Preakness, well, we were second, but I had everything, and I refused to bet that horse that won. But he ran an outstanding race. He showed he was a hell of a lot more. He showed what he was as a 2-year-old. And Paco Lopez, you couldn't have asked for a more perfect ride. He did everything perfect. Yeah. And in a big race, in a big field. That was a big field, 14. The best horse, I think the best horse did win the Preakness, but doesn't always win because there's too many interior things going on that can stop you, I think. I love the horse that runs second.
That's mine. That's mine. The second.
Yeah, me too. Unfortunately, I didn't back him up like Matt did, and I had him on top of all my exactas and superfectas and everything. But
You can't bet against Flavian Pratt.
But it was a very good race. I think that was a nice race. I'm waiting for the Belmont because I got some ideas there now whether they'll work out or. Yeah. But the Belmont, that horse won't pay $40 some again that won the Derby.
Right.
And I don't think he'll win the Belmont.
And you know, I guess it's true. You can have like a fabulous horse, but if you don't have a good jockey that knows what they're doing, you can still go to crap.
It's not the jockey. It as much as it's the inter-race dynamics, the horses around you. That you go for a spot and you get not when you're going all you can go and you're going at a distance you never went before. It doesn't take much of you getting turned sideways late in the race to totally screw everything up. Now, early in the race, going 1.25 miles, that it's a hello horse that ran second. And Ira did a great job, but you expect to get the shit knocked out of you in the one hole in a 20-horse field because they're all diving to the rail. They want the shortest route possible. Exactly. So you're going to take a beating. But as long as that beating doesn't continue, and he got hit then, and then he was in the clear because they all ran off and left him. But that wad of horses in the middle, they just keep going back and forth and back. And
all over the place.
There's no safe place to be because you're going to get shut off. If you're clear outside going into that first turn, you're screwed because you're going a hell of a lot farther on a horse that's never been that far in his life. And you're going faster probably than the horse. You know, a fast horse can go fast if there's one or two of them. But when there's several horses and they're all going like hell, well, that just the stress changes everything in the horse's reaction. You know, they can go slower. And that horse can't make it, even though if he was by himself or with one other horse, he could make it because there's not all that pressure on them.
You had to get him going, didn't you? So one of the things about the Derby and the Preakness and the Belmont, a lot of people don't realize, there's 14 races that day. For the Preakness, I think there was 13 for the Derby. And a good handicapper, you watch all those races and you watch them jockeys, how they're doing on other horses in those races. And I think Irad won 8 races that day. So you watch how those jockeys are doing on other horses. And then when you get to the final one, if some of those guys aren't in all those races, it's amazing they can ride that many, trips in a day and still do that good. But I always tend to watch the jockeys and how they do in the lower races and see what's going on, because you can see the ones that are really performing well. And there's 3 or 4 of them in there that are exceptional. Irad, Jose, Flavian Pratt, Johnny V.
Johnny V.
Any of them can win it. It's just do they get the right mount for the right day? So there's probably 8 or 10 jockeys working now that are exceptional.
And the rest of them aren't bad. They wouldn't be there if they were bad. It's just the experience of those other guys, because that wad of jockeys rides all the big races at all the big tracks for all the big money. So it's a lot of pressure, but they do it all the time, right? So the pressure is different than, you rode this one horse or a couple of them, and you rode in the race 1 or 2 times. Well, this guy's rode it 17 times or 14 times and been on the board almost. They know how to handle that stress. Mm-hmm. Where I don't think some of them, because your reaction time riding a horse going 40 miles an hour, 1,000 pounds, and everybody else is too, your reaction time is split second.
Yeah.
You have to actually anticipate before anything. It's like driving a race car, right?
Yeah, you got to be one.
There
with the
is no
horse.
room for error,
Mhm.
and there's no cockpit around you if you're the rider.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
you're
up front
exposed.
and shit happens, it
Oh,
can
shit.
be really, really
Yeah.
bad because there's nothing protecting you but that little old black jacket and that brain bucket on your head.
Now,
So, you know,
what did you?
I get mad at him. I trained a long time. My dad was a trainer, and I get mad at him and everything. But when you think about it, you know, would you put your ass up there going that far, that
Yeah.
fast? Oh,
Yeah,
and you've got two pieces of leather and a piece of steel in the horse's mouth.
Yep.
What do you think?
yeah.
No, I ain't do it.
Mm-mm.
So that's when I get mad, but it's like chicken shows when we don't do good and I think we should. I get upset just for a second. And I thought, as long as everybody comes back good, nobody gets hurt, nothing happens, there'll be more races, or
Yeah.
there won't be.
Yeah.
You know, it's
what
like
it is.
any, yeah, it's like any competition. So, but
So-
I did it. I enjoyed it once I found out I won. Even more. I was happy for the trainer.
I actually have more fun watching those lower because we watch them all day long. So all three of those Saturdays, that's all we're doing. And on the Preakness, I actually was watching 3 harness tracks and the Preakness track as well. So that even made it worse. So I had a race going every minute all day long. But yeah, that's the fun part, is to watch the whole card, because then you see the jockeys that are doing well all day long. And normally, if they're doing all day long, they'll do well in the Derby.
And how the track's playing, you know,
Yeah, the track was perfect. Yep.
It is speed. I mean, have horses went close to that distance? In this case, if they're a mile to 16, so if they're in front, have they been able to hold that speed? Now they're not going to be usually the same quality as in that big race, but you kind of get something to compare them to. Has somebody come from out of the clouds? Are they coming from out of the clouds all day? If they have been, the front runners are screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. You had that one that was going balls to the wall from the get go. And I'm like, nobody's going to catch him. And then all of a sudden, you know, he loses steam. Yeah. He ran out of gas. And then you got the ones in the back coming up. Oh my God. It was just amazing. I would have never known. I mean, I know about the Kentucky Derby, but I'm not a big horse racing sports fan. But one of my best friends is. She goes, "You got to watch this race. You got to watch this race." So I watched it later after it had already gone, because you had the one horse that got excited at the startup getting in the gate and actually flipped over. That's the same race, right?
That happens.
Yeah. And she was really disappointed. She really wanted to see that one race because it was a tall horse, right?
It's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one.
He raced this past Saturday. She could have watched him then. He ran like I thought he'd run.
Yeah,
and how did he run?
He was way back there, I think.
He's
a nice. See, there's a difference. I can't say it's like chickens, but it's like anything. There's a lot of really, really good ones. There's a very few great
ones. Yeah.
Or put every bit of ability together that day. Because it's any given day shit, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can't win it unless you're in it. And more times than not, just because you're in it, you're going to get what you expect. You're going to get your ass handed to you.
Yeah.
Right. But you don't know. You don't know until you're in the race. Until all that other stuff goes out. Because you could say, if this horse runs as good as he does, and this horse runs as much as he can, who wins? Well, it's this horse. But what if something happens in the race or that horse can't show up? So, I mean, that's the whole game, and that's the fun. That's the aggravating part, and it's the fun part at the same time.
Yeah, it's the exciting part about it.
Football team, anything. If they all play as good as they can, they will wipe the board. Well, chances of them all doing that is not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's the same way in harness horses. Matt's a big harness fan. We watch them, and I watch them, and I'm getting better. I ain't worth the shit at handicapping them still, except I know the driver.
There's one
what hole it's coming out of.
There's one. It's not a jockey, but the driver is very important. More so on harness than on thoroughbreds, because lots of things can happen, and there's some good drivers and there's some bad drivers, and the good drivers usually are on the better horses, so it's a little different game.
Yeah.
Now,
So it's
that one's the one where you're sitting like in a buggy and you're
Yeah.
driving. Okay, yeah.
trotters and pacers. And then there's quarter horses, and that's a whole other thing. They leave the gate, and then 12 seconds or it's up on how far they're going. If they're going a whole quarter of a mile, But I mean, if you get screwed leaving the gate, I don't give a shit how good you are. You're done. You don't have time. You have no time.
He was talking
Bang,
about that.
boom.
The one horse. So I'm always I guess it comes from my harness racing background, but it's good to be the one horse in a harness race because you're right there. And on the thoroughbred race, that's not always so good, but I always gravitate to those horses because if you got the horse and it's on the rail, they got to beat you.
Mm.
So I tend to take the one horse and he doesn't.
Yeah. I've trained too many horses and been in that frickin' one hole too many times. And unless you got the giddy up to get going,
yeah, you're gonna be bouncing around like a ping pong ball.
It's all traffic. Then you gotta have a good enough jock it's just gotta separate so you can weave through that traffic because you've got to change course several times.
Yeah,
usually. But if you're the one hole and you've got the speed and you are the speed,
boom.
You just
you
run your own race.
It's the same thing with NASCAR. I mean, you've got the one guy, he's leading the race for the whole race. He comes down to the last lap, and all of a sudden there's a big old
slingshot
accident. And then the guy that's in the back
slingshot from behind
the whole day is now he's number one.
Yeah, there it goes. He's led exactly a half a lap. The other guys led 99 out of the 100. This guy has led a half a lap. And he gets it all, and the other guy goes, what the hell? Yep, I agree.
All right, we're almost at 2 hours there, Mikey. I think, got any other questions?
I think the kids outside, it's pretty damn hot. I suppose they don't want to be out there before. But I've really enjoyed that. No, I don't think so. We'll have to do this again.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe instead of winging it, we'll actually have a script, kind of like you do.
Well,
you're a big professional. We're just two old guys that talk chicken shit. But
that's fun. Do. That's fun too.
When I go on, I like a direction so that we have a topic that we kind of cover. You know what I mean? So that all the I like the topics to feel like they're different when we do different shows. If we're just winging it all the time, it just ends up being the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, but here's the thing too.
I'm a big outline guy.
Yeah, he is a huge outline guy. I mean, you're talking 40
I
pages.
put way more on that page than we'll ever cover. Trust me.
Yeah,
but because he's always afraid. What if we get done talking about it too quickly?
Because sometimes you fly through some topics pretty fast,
But you were just saying, I think it was yesterday, that you wish we could go. We had a show that was just a few guys and we're just shooting the shit.
Yeah,
that's all we're doing is just talking about whatever.
And today kind of felt like that. Where there's a radio, there's a show I listen to, and there's about 4 of them, and they're just talking about different topics, and they're all in the same room, and they're just like, I don't know, they're just bantering back and forth. It's just I kind of like that scenario. Where,
I do too.
Yeah, like I try to make my shows, and it was kind of like this here today, is not so much a teaching moment exactly, although we are teaching things, but more of a conversation. That whatever we're doing, whatever they're learning is coming out of the conversation.
Right.
And I like that. That's how I try to do it. Because if it feels too like you're in a classroom type of thing, then people kind of lose their interest and it's not as fun.
Yeah,
and I don't enjoy it either.
We tried, when we first started, what do we want to talk about? And it went out the window after it's like, I can't do this shit. Because we get talking, we just get talking, and then your mind goes and you talk about this. And then if there's a lull, and we've had some of them that there's been a lull, then him and I look at each other like, oh shit, we got to make something up now. But I mean, but I think I don't like shows where you ask a question and you wait for an answer.
Right.
And then maybe you build on that, or you go because you got these questions. But I mean, a general outline that would be good, but that would mean we'd have to prepare.
No, it doesn't mean that you have to follow everything on the outline. You just use the outline as the basis. So I'll start here, and through the conversation, we may cover a couple of them without even
We've
purpose.
done that
And then
a lot.
I'll fill the lull coming on, and then I'll start looking at the outline real quick, and I go, okay, let's talk about this. But what I do is I usually take like an article that I wrote in the past, or I take one of my programs on the website, and then I just break it down into a nice talking points, and that's what we go with. Every now and then I'll tackle a topic like inbreeding or line breeding or something like that, and because I don't like just sitting there being a monologue. I want it to be back and forth, and I enjoy that. Like when I have a co-host, and now Nancy's doing a lot of it these days, is I'll talk about it, I'll get it going, and then I'll pass it over to her or my co-host. And then while they're talking about it, I'm thinking about what I want to say. Right. And then the conversation just comes out of it, Yeah. And right. So I enjoy that. That's when it's fun for me.
Well, we sure enjoyed having you two here.
Yes, thanks for
I
coming
appreciate
on.
it. Yeah, it's fun. I enjoyed the first time when you guys came on our show. And I really liked that. Like I told you when we you came on our show, is I love your show. And I do like the interviews because you learn a lot from those people, and you learn from their experience. But I'll tell you, I'll say it again, and you guys did it recently, and I really enjoyed it. Was I like it when sometimes it's you just you two talking, because your experience and your knowledge really comes out when it's just you two. When it's the interview, it's mostly them.
It's about the guest.
It's about the guest.
Yeah.
And I get that,
It's about the guest.
But you guys
try to shut up when they're talking, so we try to let them talk. I guess is the issue, because we get a lot of requests for certain people about certain breeds or waterfowl or whatever. So we try to stay out of it as much as we can. I know we had one a few episodes ago with our buddy Gary Rossman up in Wisconsin, who's an exceptional breeder of Colombian rock bantams, and I had a lot of requests for that. So we tried to let him. He'd give out some really good tips on how to breed those, and that's kind of what we're hitting there. And then when him and I come on, we never know which way it's going. We'll get off on a rant.
And a lot of times, I get quieter than I usually am, like when we're in person, because I know what's going to come out of my mouth. Now, you may see me look at him, and he's going like, he's not going to say it. Don't say nothing. But because I'm getting better. I'm getting.
We have so many kids is the thing, and I'm glad they listen. And we get at the show last weekend, 2 weekends ago, I guess now. But I had so many parents come up. Oh, the kids just love to watch this. I said, well, I'll have to watch my language and clean it up then, because I don't want to be a bad influence.
Isn't that part of their education?
Yeah.
It's good. We try to. And, we do it.
Real world
youth shows and showmanship. So we try to kind of keep it
real modern problems take modern answers. So, anyhow, but okay, you guys have a great day. Let's do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Yeah, just let us know when. Yeah, it's fun.
We certainly will, and continued success, and thank you for all you've done for our show, and continued success to your show. I know we enjoy the shit out of it.
Oh yeah, we got to have you on again, definitely.
Yeah. Well, anytime. And what we end up doing is we'll I watch those things, and I have a terrible habit. I watch them like in the evening. So I'll turn you guys on, and I'm listening really into it. And next thing I know, you're gone because I'm gone. And I'm thinking, oh shit, I really wanted to hear this. And I have another bad habit of saying, I'll remember that.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It's like, who was the guest? I'll think it'll be somebody I know. I mean, that's the bad part. But anyway, American Game Fowl Breeders Academy.
Actually, there's an easier address to go to start would be thebreedersacademy.com. And you click on like become a member or some of the other links, it'll take you to that one. So just go to breedersacademy.com and that'll get you there faster. That's the free site part of it, and then the memberships on the links on that page.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, become a member, and you guys go learn something, okay? Not you guys. I mean, you guys.
Well, I'm
There
learning
we go.
something every day.
We're always learning
And
new
maybe,
stuff as well.
maybe I'll learn something someday. Until then, I'll just keep making shit up. If it's okay with
I don't know about that. I think you know a lot.
Yeah, you
guys are
you
very
both know a
knowledgeable.
lot.
Yeah.
It's
We
getting
learn
it out.
from you.
There's a lot of stuff up here.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law told me last night when we were listening to it, we were out on the porch and he's got this thing. He loves music and I like music, but I don't love it like I used to. But some song will come on, he'll say, "Who sang this?" And I'll tell him. And then I'll tell him who the hell was in the band and stuff, stuff like when we were growing up. And he said, "That amazes me. You've got a wealth of useless knowledge in your head." I said, "That ain't even half of it. If I could pull up the shit I need when I need it, that'd be a good thing."
What you need
sometimes,
is someone like Nancy as a co-host, because what she does is, if I'm being vague, she'll ask the
yeah.
questions the audience wish they would have asked, and then she pulls things out of me that weren't going to come out if she didn't do it. Or what do you do? I mean, you do some things that really make the difference, because without you, there's a lot of things I'd forget, or I would cover, or I'd spin around, or I would be vague about. So you tend to bring that out of me.
Yeah. Well, what he does, he's got the curse of knowledge. So
I think everybody
the
already
way
knows
he
it.
talks, sometimes he talks in a way that he assumes everybody knows what he's talking
we
about.
do that too.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, wait a minute. Let's just break that down a little bit and
Yeah,
simplify
we always
it.
try to get it back to beginner's level. 'Cause
Yeah.
A lot of the people that watch are just starting. So
Oh yeah.
try to remember back to then. And that's why I told everybody when I started, I didn't know nothing. So you try to go from there and then slide it on up, I guess is the secret.
Yeah, it's backfiring in my face because they like her better than they like me.
No, they don't. No, they don't. But we've got a huge responsibility here because we are the teachers of the up and comers.
Yep.
And so we need to get out to the masses.
And there's a lot of bad information out there.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important for us is to support people like you to get your message out to the masses, because I'm telling you, YouTube and Facebook, they don't particularly help you out too much with the algorithms. You got to do a lot of work.
Well, you go
to
on
get
there,
it out
you ask
there.
a question, you get 1,000 different answers too.
Yeah. And of the 1,998 of them are absolutely insane. One of them is possible, maybe. And if you can cipher through, the right answer may or may not be in that 1,000.
Yeah.
So because there's a lot of less than 5-year geniuses.
Yeah.
On every subject under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Yes.
anyhow, that's our mission, to keep spreading our own special kind of love, as I like to say. So, well,
I
guys,
like the way you said that.
I'm gonna
pay the bills.
Pay the bills. I'm going to get on out of here. I thank you both. Thank everybody that came here, even though we only know of 3 people, but we know there was a hell of a lot more. But thank you to them. You can find us on YouTube. And if you would subscribe, share, and like, it'd be great. We are on Facebook. Same thing goes for there. And we are all on Spotify, where you can listen to it while you're driving down the road and you just need a little inspiration or a laugh, or you just want to cuss. Just go ahead. Listen to us and tell us exactly what we don't know. It's fantastic because we listen the same to you when you're yelling at us as we do if you yell at us in person.
Yeah, and you're going to hear a lot of great stories because these guys have a lot of experience underneath their belts.
We got a lot of stuff we don't even tell because the people are still alive, including us.
Oh, good. We have some things to look forward to, don't we?
Yeah.
Got to get them on
We
the
live
show
long
here
enough.
soon.
So,
Yeah.
all right, everybody. Maddie, take